Good evening, everyone. I, Atharo Rahul Khurda, Vice Chairman of Pune Vikasa, welcome you all for this webinar of how to present your paper in the exam, do's and don'ts, organized by Pune branch of Vikasa of WRC of ICAI. Our speaker for the day is C. Aishwarya Mutta. Now, I would request CM Moshmi Shaha, Chairperson of Pune Vikasa, to give a formal opening vote.
A very good evening to all, and welcome to this seminar on how to present your paper in the exams, do's and don'ts. A very, very required session, especially just before your exams. And we couldn't have a better speaker than Aishwarya Madam. So it was really great of Aishwarya Madam to agree and consent to conduct this session. Thank you so much, Aishwarya Madam. My dear students, your exams are just around the corner and you must be really working hard towards it. So Aishwarya Madam will definitely guide you as to how do you prepare for your exams, how do you present your exams and what to do and what not to do. But apart from that, also do remember that see to it that you are consistent in your efforts. You hardly have a few days left with you. So the power of concentration and consistency is actually the key to the treasure house of knowledge. So be focused, work hard in silence, and let success make the noise. All the best to you. And now I would like to give the formal introduction of CA Aishwarya Madam. Aishwarya, CA Aishwarya Mutha is a practicing chartered accountant and a student counselor by passion. She has mentored and customized study plans for the students to face the exams confidently. She is a faculty for GST workshops in various colleges like Garwari College, BMCC College, Wadia College, Sadhu Vaswani Institute of Management, and she's also a visiting faculty for GST at St. Mira's College of Commerce, Pune. She has ranked first in the SSC exams in Crescent High School. She has pursued BCom from BMCC College and MCom from Garwari College. She has the honor to be the youngest girl to be awarded as Miss BMCC in the BMCC College. She has pursued her articleship training at Subhash M. Hiran and Company. She has hosted the orientation program for newly qualified chartered accountants organized by the Institute and has also been a host at various events at national level. At the Mumbai branch of ICI, she was a speaker to provide guidance and motivation to the students. She has also conducted motivational sessions at the National Convention for CA students. She was invited as a keynote speaker at the Vivekanand Institute of Excellence, Hyderabad. She has conducted various dynamic and career guidance sessions at various schools and colleges. She has always been an overall development and has also mastered skills in poetry, drama, stage shows, and many more. She strongly believes that the only person you are destined to be is the person you decide to be. A very warm welcome to you, Aishwarya Madam, and over to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And in fact, indeed, I am honored to be here. So once again, thank you to you and the entire Pune ICI team for giving me this opportunity to connect with brilliant students. And definitely, this is going to be a fun session because there's so much to learn in everything that we do. And of course, CA course has provided us a platform where we can explore our potentials. So one of the areas being exams, and I would definitely like to throw some light on how we can improve our paper presentation skills and how that can help us in the overall development, also in cracking the C exams very confidently. So I'll just share my screen. Okay, is the screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. So, hello everyone, a very good evening and welcome to this topic of how to present your paper in the exams, do's and don'ts.
Ma'am, sorry to disturb.
Is the screen blank?
Yes, yes.
Sorry?
Screen is blank.
I've shared the screen. Can you
Yes,
now
it's
see?
visible now. Yes.
Okay. All right. So once again, a very warm good evening. And now we present the topic of how to present your paper in the exams. Well, this topic seems to be very simple, do's and don'ts of what you are supposed to do and what not. Simply speaking, this is quite easy. We've been writing tests since our childhood. There were so many tests to be done. But there are certain key points that you have to remember so that the paper presentation becomes really effective and the outcome that you deserve or desire is the one that you actually have. So before we kickstart with this, I would request everyone to quickly grab a pen and paper. So I give you a minute. Please grab a pen and paper. There's something that you have to do. Okay, so I hope all the participants are very active, and this involvement is what is going to take you through the entire session. So just grab a pen and paper. All right, I assume that you have this pen and paper, and all you have to do is I'm going to display a screen which is going to give you certain instructions. All you have to do is read those instructions, follow those instructions, and you will be given a time limit of 2 minutes. And in those 2 minutes, you have to complete that activity. All right, so here we go. Ma'am, is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. It's visible. You can full the screen.
Okay, this is already full. Can you see?
It is in PPT mode only, not full screen.
Please check now.
I think when you full screen, the screen is blank. It's visible.
Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay, so I hope the students are doing this activity where you have to follow the instructions carefully and finish the following activity in just 2 minutes. All right, I hope everyone is reading the instructions very carefully because this is the very starting point of our session. And after doing this activity, you're definitely going to come to know why is it important to follow the do's and the don'ts. All right, can I have certain answers? So the time is up. What all has been done by the student? Okay, I think there is certain issue with the screen. I'll try to share the screen again. Is it now clear?
No, ma'am. It's blank.
Uh, Yes, this is on the slideshow mode itself. Okay, I suppose this is now clear, yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Uh, so I assume everyone has done the activity. Okay, I have an answer. I followed it and did the task in 1 and 2 only. All right, now this is an activity. I really wanted some answers, but I suppose due to the screen issue, you couldn't. Okay, but this activity simply says that you had to do number one. Why? Because if you go through this entire activity, there's a lot of thing that is said to be done. But in the first instance itself, it says read everything before you do anything. I'm sure many of the students might have been doing all of this, writing the name in the top corner, drawing a square, and doing all the activities. But the very simple point that I had to mention here is sometimes all you have to do is just be very present in the moment and understand what is given in the paper itself. Sometimes we end up doing so many things and the outcome is just totally zero. Therefore, it is important that before you start, you should know the do's and the don'ts. Well, why is it necessary to even understand? Please understand that while you write a paper, this is somewhere that you have to score. So if you follow those tricks and techniques, you can score more. Secondly, there's always a very systematic flow to your answers in the paper. It is very clear that once you write the paper, you are presenting yourself to the examiner. You are actually introducing yourself to the examiner. And please note that there is no other form of introducing yourself to the examiner except via writing the paper. So while you write the paper, you have to be very, very precise because that is going to reflect your personality. Executing the strategy for best results, sometimes we make only strategies, but execution part is a failure. And therefore, it is important to understand that you need to have certain key points to remember so that you can execute your strategy and also get the best results. Effective utilization of time, like everyone knows, time crunch is something that you have to handle during your paper writing. 3 hours is something that you have to really, really manage well. So when you go for the do's and the don'ts, you will definitely be in a mode where you can make the best use of time. Also, paper is not something that you can just write and submit it. It has to be presentable. It has to be in a format that has been prescribed. It has to be legible. There are so many points to be considered. Also, while you write a paper, there can always be two approaches, the casual approach and the professional approach. And like you very well know, when you go for the casual approach, you get those casual marks and you end up somewhere at 39 or probably even below that, just 199, and you lose on those that word that says pass. So it is very important that you have a professional approach while you write your paper. And last but not the least is definitely you should have the kind of confidence that you require, because writing a test is not something that you do overnight. You should be well prepared, you should be well planned, you should have all the idea in your mind of how you are going to go about it. So 3 hours is something that you have to confidently go and approach. So with this very outline, we start with the do's and the don'ts. So number one, which I personally feel is very, very important, is get your basics right. Now, this might sound very, very simple, but this is something that you have to be really careful about. So when you get the question paper, you bound to just go into the question paper and start, solving the questions. But please make sure that while you go through the question paper, please read the questions very carefully. Sometimes there's just a single twist in the question which changes the entire answer. And this is the part where majority of the students fail. You might have experienced sometimes कि paper लिखने के बाद बाहर आते हैं and you say that was the best answer I wrote, and later you realize there was a twist in the question and you were not expected to write the one that you've written. So please make sure that when you have the question paper, you read the questions very carefully and make a special note, underline the key parts of what is asked. Secondly, when you get the answer sheet, you are in a hurry to start solving. But the basic details are very important that you have to fill. So these details are equally important. Pay equal attention to these details so that you make sure that you make no mistake, at least on the main front part. Okay, all the details are properly filled in. Thirdly, get familiar with the layout of the paper. Now, for this, I highly recommend that do not just go and enter the final exam. Just before that, you should have an idea of how the question paper looks like. What are the questions that are expected in the paper? What is the format of the paper? This will make you familiar with the paper and it will also give you a sense of how to go about it. So, the very first thing is get your basics very, very right. Start with the basics. Second, like I just mentioned, read the whole paper before writing anything. Now, there are some times where you read the question, you just partially read it and you say, Abbi, I just read it before coming, and you start writing it. And then later realize that, of course, this was not the one that was expected. So, the biggest mistake that happens is reading incomplete or just getting, starting off writing without completely having the knowledge of the question. Now, secondly, you might feel that, once you get the question paper, it is quite convenient to just start off writing. But please make sure that the 15 minutes that you have as the reading time is very, very, very crucial. And those 15 minutes are not just for you to decide whether to write the exam or not, of course not. But on a very serious note, make the best use of those 15 minutes. The planning that you do in those 15 minutes will help you conquer whatever you've thought for the next 3 hours. So reading the whole paper, marking the system, and making your choices well in advance. So while you read the question paper itself, you should have an idea of what are you going to write, which questions you are going to select the first, which questions you are going to write later. And this is how you're going to start strategizing. So read the whole question paper. Third one it says is do the easiest questions first. Now, how do you do that? So first of all, while you read the entire paper, you should start segregating. Once you start segregating, you can segregate the questions that you know the best. Okay, so when I was writing my C exams, I used to, make a small tick mark with a pencil. So one tick mark meant this is the one that I know the best. Okay, two tick marks meant that this is something that I know partially, I partially don't know. And a dot meant that I did not know anything. So what actually happened is while I read the entire paper, when I re-referred it, I already had the marking system done. That these are the questions that I have to go through. So tick number one is something that you start with. Now, what are the advantages of this? Number one, once you start with the easy questions, you start building confidence. You understand that the paper is not really so tough. You can start. And second, once you start writing the easy questions, it also gives you momentum. It gives you a kind of confidence and speed that is required, and that helps you sparing more time for the difficult questions. So in this case, please make sure that you start with the easy questions first. And of course, the saying says, first impression is the last impression. So make sure that this introduction that you are giving to the examiner is something that you can just give it via the paper that you are writing. So in the paper that you write, you have to reflect that kind of confidence also. And that definitely happens when you do the easy questions, the questions that you know first. Okay, this is something that I think everyone is going to have trouble with, getting your timings right. This seldom happens that you plan for a question, but you are unable to complete that within the allocated time. But this comes with practice, and like I said, you still have time. You have time to practice, and this is the best peak time for you to thoroughly practice things, so that you get a hold over the timings. Also, there are certain areas that you have to work on, timing being one. So first of all, set a very clear guideline. Half an hour per question could be one, or whichever way you feel is convenient to you. You can set different timings for MCQs and descriptive answers. So there are at times where you are solving the MCQs and then you realize already 1.5 hour is over, and you just have the remaining 1.5 hour for the descriptive. So if you don't mind your time, definitely there is going to be some kind of hassle that you're going to go through, and then this creates a disturbance. This breaks your rhythm. So please be mindful of your times. You can set times for every question, or you can set timings for subparts also. So have a very clear time guideline and keep checking your time. Okay. Sometimes it so happens that you're so engrossed in writing that you forget checking your watch, and then you realize there's 50 marks to be covered more and just 45 minutes left. So make sure that this doesn't happen. Okay, now this is something that I personally like, identifying your scoring areas. First of all, remember that there's no guarantee that whatever you've studied will be asked in the question paper. ICI does not promise कि तुमने जो भी पढ़ा है वही आएगा. There may be new questions, there may be different concepts that are asked. There may be questions that you've not prepared at all. Maybe questions from those chapters that you left for option. और हमेशा ऐसे ही होता है, questions from the end. There were 40 questions in the book and you did just 30, and institute asks you from 30 to 40 itself. So at times there are going to be problems, there are going to be questions that are new to you, but there's always a way out where you can score. And this is the exact thing that you have to do while you are in the question paper, while you are in the exam center. Please remember, for those 3 hours that you are writing, you've been taking tremendous efforts. It is not just a journey of 3 hours, but the entire duration that you've been studying, putting in so much hard effort. So it is necessary for you to understand that you have certain scoring areas and you need to recognize those. Now, number one, MCQs could definitely be the scoring areas. One, because there is no negative marking. So it is always wise to never leave an MCQ. Even if you do not know the answer for an MCQ, do not leave it blank. You can write any option that you feel is the closest. Why? Because since there is no negative marking, there are chances you might score a mark. Okay, so always identify certain areas where you can definitely score despite not knowing. Now there could be questions from chapters with less weightage. So there have always been student mentality where chapters with less weightage are something that are left towards the end and then never touched until the exams are over, neither even after that. But please understand, these chapters with less weightage also have less volume to be covered, and they are quite promising. With less number of pages to be covered, scoring 3-4 marks could mean a lot. That is where you land up from 39 and you cross that 40 bar or that 60 bar. So identify certain chapters that are going to be very promising. There is definitely one or two questions that is about to come from those chapters. So never leave such chapters and prepare for those also. Now, quoting correct section, number, Ind AS, act, name. So at times there could be certain questions which you might not be aware about, which you do not know what the exact answer is, but somewhere or the other you have certain linkage. You know, probably the section, probably just the provision, or the correct AS number, Ind AS number, something related to the answer, something meaning relevant. Okay, so something that is very relevant to the answer, please quote that. Why? Because of course, if you are quoting something that is relevant, you are bound to get the marks. So instead of just giving up saying nahi mujhe nahi aata hai, nahi pata hai, always find out certain areas where you can score. Scoring could be different areas. There could be certain chapters that you've selected, studied very, very well. There could be certain areas. Now, this is something that is your strength basically. If you're good in practicals, find out those chapters, find out those sums where you can score. If you're good at theory, find out few key sentences that you can use throughout in the answer, which could be a filler or a masala style. So you have to identify your scoring areas. Every subject has its scoring areas. It is up to you how you identify the areas. Okay, I think the screen is not clear. I am on the do's slide. Is it visible?
This is the second slide. Still, we are visible.
Can you
You
see
are,
identify your scoring areas?
yeah, follow the instruction carefully and finish the following.
No. That is already way before that is done.
I think, can I run the PPT?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes.
I'll stop the share.
Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes. Can we have this slide number 5? Next. 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 Okay, but yeah. Okay. Is the screen now visible? This is visible to me. Perfect.
Students,
Alright.
can you visible the screen? Please chat in the yes or no.
Okay. I think now this is visible to all.
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So after you have identified the scoring areas, now there is something that you have to be very, very keen about. Now I've seen seldom times students not paying attention at all to the marking system. Now, how does this work actually? So I personally feel it is very, very important to look at the marking system. At times you end up writing so much data for a question that has just very limited marks allotted. So for example, sometimes you write 2, 3, 4 pages writing for just a 2 or 3 marks answer. So you also have to understand that it is not just about writing, it is about writing the right content for the marks that are allotted. So I out for the marking system for each part of the question, and you also have to manage your time. So see, there are things that go hand in hand. You have to also understand that if the marks are allotted less, you also have to allot less time. But that does not in any way mean that you have to skip those answers. You have to be quite vigilant about taking instant decisions of how can you make the best out of the marks allotted and the time given. So please understand that whenever you are about to write an answer, first pay attention to the marking system. At times it might so happen that a lengthy answer has been asked for 6 marks, and maybe a part of that has been asked for 2 marks. You cannot write the same content for both. 2 and 6 marks are different. The content size will also reduce. But in no manner am I saying that you have to just neglect the content. You have to be very precise, write what is relevant. Next please. All right. Now there is something which is not maybe writing a part of the paper you might feel, but no, this is definitely a part of the paper writing. I have seen students being very casual about underlining, drawing formats, drawing lines. Now, please understand, although you might not get marks for drawing a line, but it definitely adds to your presentation. It makes it look neat, and at times there are certain techniques that you have to use. Merely writing will not help. So whenever you are writing any particular answer, you are quoting a section, you are writing the correct index, as number, you are writing a keyword that that represents the subject. It is always wise to underline that word, that section, that provision. Why? This because it gives this is a professional approach. It gives the examiner a mindset that the student is quite sincere, studious about the subject, and this is where you have that opportunity of getting an edge over others, where maybe just because you've presented it neat, you've done all that is required, it could give you an edge of zero point 0.5 marks or so. Also, secondly, at times there is all the stationery that you need and you do not have, like it is compulsory to write in black pen, and you just don't have that. That creates a panic situation. So please understand, while you write the paper, it is equally important to understand the environment around you. Now, using a scale and pencil is equally important while drawing formats. Now, there are answers in practical subjects where you just, haphazardly write debit this, credit this, answers flowing here and there, numbers flowing here and there. And you expect the examiner to look deep down to understand which figure is where. Oh, please, examiner does not have so much time to go in so much detail. The more ease you give to the examiner, the more chances of scoring. This is quite practical, because examiner is not a machine. Okay, examiner is a person who has emotions, who is attached with the subject. So if you give him neat and tidy, then it is definitely something that could go in your favor. Also, to understand what all you need to carry along, so sometimes there are students who come to a practical paper without a calculator, and then there's all this hustle going, kahan se lau, kya karu, and then panic situation starts, and then everything that you would prepare, all the calmness that just goes away. So make sure that before you leave your house, or before a night before, make a list of all the things that you need to carry, and make sure you carry it. Also carry your water bottle and certain things that you can carry just to have at times when you need a break, where this is not functioning, you don't know how to proceed, maybe this helps. Next point. Okay, now this is something that majority of the students feel right in the middle of the paper. बहुत लिख लिए बस finish. Now these are certain questions I can definitely not attempt. This is not my cup of tea. It's okay. ICI does not promise that 100% paper तुमको आएगा. Neither can you promise yourself. But you have to understand that there is always a chance where you can score. Like we just saw, identifying the scoring areas. Now, if you look keenly on the right side image, you will understand there's a person, the bottom person. He is just so close, and now he wishes to give up. How do you feel? How do you feel looking at him? This is exactly what happens when you as a student, you are about to cross that 60 marks, 40 marks, or even 80, 75, just about to score, and then you feel not my cup of tea. Questions are very difficult. ICI paper set ही tough करता है. Now, this is something that, you have this mindset. Therefore, you feel like giving up, but don't give up. Sometimes, if you just can't write the answers, maybe you could underline, maybe you could just keep reminding yourself. Maybe you could write certain provisions. Maybe you could, just go through the MCQs again. Maybe you could read the entire paper again. Maybe you could just add tidbit here and there. Maybe you could write the conclusion. You could do anything until and unless you have the paper in your hand till 5 o'clock. You are the power. You have to decide what you have to do with that paper, because that is the only thing that is going to go as your identity. Now please understand, while this paper goes to the examiner, he does not know if you are a male or a female, if you are attending the paper for the first time or last time, which attempt, what is your profession, how you've been doing. Nothing. What you give on the paper is your only identity. So make sure it's the best. Sometimes instead of giving up, find out ways and solutions of how you can make it even better. Okay, next. Now, sometimes this could be a saver while you are running out of time. Okay, now sometimes there could be certain situations where you are running out of time. But in that case, even if you're running out of time, make quick decisions. So, for example, where you have 2 or 3 questions unanswered, instead of just doing everything, instead of just going through, the mindset saying, "Hoga ki nahi, kaise hoga? Let me give up. Let me do this. Let me wait. Calm down. Now decide." Now, when you have 2 answers pending and one long answer, it is always wise that you write at least partial of both. Now, when you write partial of both, make sure that you write important provisions, something that is related to the answer. So there are chances that you could score more. Now, in that case, now when you are just about to end up, the time is about to get over. In that case, you can always write the answer in bullet format. Now, when you write in bullet format, it gives a better presentation. Also, it becomes easy for the examiner to read. So this is somehow, in the limited time, you can still make sure that you complete your paper with relevant data. Please make sure I focus on this word again and again, because you just cannot write anything in come saying that मैंने तो लिख दिया paper complete हो गया, I've written 90 marks paper and scored 30. What is your efficiency? Okay, you have to be very, very precise while you write. You just cannot write anything and come and say that I've done it. So make sure that while you are running out of time, you choose those questions which you know better, which you can present faster. Maybe you can just decide that when you have half an hour left, you can just simply decide that in the last half an hour, maybe I write the theory part fast because my speed is fast, my writing is fast. So you have to understand what your strength is. You have to write the entire paper based on your strength. So what is important is that you do not go and search for your strength in the actual final exam, but right before that, right now from today itself until your exams, keep writing, keep practicing papers, so that you understand which are the areas that you need to work on, which are the areas that you have to focus more on, which are the areas where you have to implement more strategies, what you need to do. So these are certain areas that you have to keep practicing. And with practice, this will definitely be solved. Next. Okay, now after a few do's, there are also a few don'ts that you are definitely supposed to do. Now, first being, don't leave out questions unnecessarily. When I mean unnecessarily, I mean that just thinking कि लिख सकता था, कर सकता था, और लिखा तो सही होगा कि नहीं, just getting trapped in thoughts or wasting time and just not following the questions. Don't do that, because one, it results in underperformance. This especially happens with question number 1. Students tend to leave that question entirely. Please don't do it, because question 1 is something which an examiner judges you upon, because that is something that is expected out of you. Of course, that is going to be difficult, but there is something or the other you might know, relevant provision or something. So don't leave out questions unnecessarily. Try to fit in the questions, because the questions that you do not attempt, there is an automatic loss of those marks. But when I say that don't lose out on questions, I also mean, next point, that you don't get stuck on one particular question. So maybe there is a point in time where you start reading the question and you say, this is the one that I did just a night before. I am going to solve this by hook or by crook. You are already half an hour done and you still say, ये तो मैंने किया है ना, बस आई प्रैक्टिस दिस 3 times, आज तो पेपर में लिखना ही है चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए. Sometimes this kind of an attitude will not work. You will be heavily losing on other marks if you just have this kind of approach. So make sure that you understand that it is not always logical to stay stuck up on one question. Don't sit back. You can just give it a quick thought, or as a good practice you can also do this. So whenever you have certain questions and you're not very sure of what the points are, right in the beginning when you get the answer sheet, use the last page. Okay, when you use the last page you can just quickly mark the bullet points. So once you mark the bullet points, these are the points that you have to focus on. These are the points that you have to write. So it might so happen that while you're writing the entire paper and you lose out on thinking what was the question, you could refer it. But don't get stuck on one particular question. Move on. Because once you move on, maybe you write the other questions, there are more chances of scoring. Third, don't run out of time. This being said, that sticking on a particular question, or just rotating there and there and there itself, and not minding your time, just writing the questions anyhow, writing it very lengthy, not minding the time, or just doing MCQs for a very 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 long time. This is something that this is going to unnecessarily create pressure on you, because towards the end you will feel that इतना किया सिर्फ 40 marks का ही लिखा, and it's already 2 hours done, 2.5 hours done. So please understand time is also very crucial. The examiner does not know what is there in your mind after the paper. You cannot say मैं सब पढ़ के गई थी, but somehow I couldn't write it. What you write is what you show to the examiner, and that is where you score, and that score is something that is your result. So if you mind everything, only then CA becomes a chartered accountant course. Otherwise it says come again, come again, come again. Okay, so certain things that you don't have to do. In that, the next point is don't showcase untidy presentation. Now, there's something that I really, really, really want to stress upon. You are not doing a favor by writing a paper on the examiner. The examiner is not there just to correct your paper. Okay, please understand. You are not doing a favor to ICI by writing. CA is a course that you chose. Writing exam is a decision that you made, so you have to stick by it. So you cannot come up with an untidy presentation, or writing which is not even legible, and say कि तुमको पढ़ना है तो पढ़ो. I am going to give you the way it is. तुमको दिखता है तो marks दो. This attitude is not something that you can hold on. Please understand that writing, haphazardly, writing here and there, writing 6 says 4, 5, 2, anything, and then saying कि वो examiner पढ़ लेंगे उनका. Examiner is not going to do that for you. Okay, please understand. If you are writing, make sure it's legible. Don't just scribble. कुछ ना कुछ इधर उधर कर दिया. Sometimes you just remember a word or something. You make an ऐसे कुछ लिखते and then write somewhere. You write it in a way that even what you wrote earlier is not visible. Or just towards the end of the paper, you write such a small note, something which is not even visible, cannot be read with the naked eyes. Don't do that. Don't go for untidy presentation, untidy writing. With this, I do not mean write calligraphy, of course, but of course, you have to be very neat with your writing. You have to be very presentable in your answers. So, like I said, writing bullet points, this gives your answer a better presentation. Drawing format, this makes your answer look presentable. Writing debit, credit, this is something that is a part of the answer. So, make sure that your answer is also presentable, not just the content, but the overall answer. There are certain times cancellation. I've seen students, they write something, they cancel it so hard that the page is torn. So whatever you would written on the back, that is absolutely not visible, but it makes your paper more and more shabby. Sometimes when you have to cancel, it's okay to just scratch it once. Don't scribble so much that the entire paper, the entire attention goes on the cancellation part itself. So make sure that you have a very tidy presentation in the entire paper. And one more thing, very logical is, there are bunches of paper that the examiner has to correct. So everyone being very untidy, there's one paper that comes very neat. Imagine what he might feel. Wow, this is the student I was looking for. This kind of presentation, this kind of answer, this kind of format. Okay, so maybe that gives you an extra edge also. This is something that this might sound silly, not to make silly mistakes, but this is the one that most of the students do. I personally feel that if a student fails, if he does not score despite writing, it is only and only because of the silly mistakes he does, which actually a student does unintentionally. He's not even aware about it. but please make sure that you do not make silly mistakes. And how do you recognize this? So you do this by writing test series, writing mock tests, writing test practice papers right before the examination. So do not go and experiment in the final test itself. Do it right now before the exams, so that you identify what are the areas that you are making mistakes on. Silly mistake number one is writing the entire answer correct, but writing wrong question number. Who is going to give you marks for that? Instead of writing 4B, you've written 4C. Although your answer is correct, but that answer does not belong to 4C. And where you could have scored a 4, you score a 0. And that's how you are going to heavily lose marks if you make such kind of mistakes. So point number one, always be very, very, very open to what question number you are writing. If you're writing the answer in detail, write the correct question number. Now there are certain times where students do not write units, no currency. So in practical papers, it is written 20,000. 20,000 what? Dogs, cats? No. Currency, which currency? Pound, euro, rupees? You have to mention all of this. This might just seem kya hai currency mein? But a person, an examiner who is checking a practical paper expects you to know the currency, and that's quite simple. So you have to be aware about the currency. You have to, mention the units, kgs, pounds, kya hai, likho. Okay. Um, I hope you all know that you have to write subparts of a question at one single place. So if you're writing question number 4, you can shuffle question 4B, question 4A, and question 4C. This can be written. But you cannot write question 4A, question 5B, and question 4B. So you have to write all the subparts of a question at one place itself. Okay, the sequence can be changed, but you have to write all the subparts at one single place. Please understand this point. In case you do not know, if you are into a habit of writing it at different places, please start practicing the paper in this way, where you write all the sub questions, subparts at one place. I think this one is the one that is most important for anyone to understand. You look at this person on the right. This is the situation that happens of a student not understanding what to do. Panic, panic, panic. Because maybe you've just suddenly understood that you've written a wrong question, you've written a wrong answer, you've written the wrong details, or this is not something that you wanted to do. This is not the right kind of paper. You've studied for a different subject, anything, and this ends up into panic. But let me tell you something, when you have the result day, no one is interested in your story. No one is really bothered to know why is your result negative. No one listens to your story. So instead, okay, Nikhil, I'll just do it in some time. Okay, about the subpart. Okay, so in case of panicking, please understand that even if you panic, IC examiner does not know. जो भी है, if you start panicking, it is definitely reflected in your paper. You know how once you start writing the paper, there'll be no flow to your answer, any point, anywhere, sudden scratching, and then your handwriting becomes, very sleepy. It just does not, show the real you. So please understand that while you write your paper, it is not just the content that you are giving to the examiner. There are certain feelings also that you are passing. So while you write the answer just haphazard, you show that you are lack of confidence. There's no right kind of clarity in your mind. You don't know the answer accurately, and you're not in the right mindset. Maybe you're fidgeting. Maybe you're jumbling. Maybe you're panicking. Don't give such negative emotions. Instead of panicking, stay calm. For a minute or two, you can drink water. You can visualize yourself saying that I'm writing the paper very peacefully. This is a practice that only you can do. No one can come and do it for yourself. So how to manage your panic is something that you have to figure it out by yourself. Okay. So please make sure that on this point of panicking, you maintain your calm, because this is everything you've been doing is for those 3 years. 3 घंटे लिखना है, and I have to score my best. And what if you underperform in those 3 years? While you are watching cricket match, you are very excited. Please hit a six, and he gets bowled, and you feel, "क्यों खेला फिर इतना? Why did you do so much practice?" So this is something that you have to understand. 3 years is very crucial. Don't panic. Instead, give yourself good vibes, good vibrations, and good thoughts. Self-talk is extremely important. What you say within is very, very important. For me, I personally feel what the world says is not really so important as what you say to yourself. In the exam hall, you always have a choice to say कि paper tough हो सकता है. इस बार नहीं हुआ तो अगला time देंगे. all set. Even before you write the exam, you've decided for yourself कि अगला attempt है. And ICI is always there to welcome you. Please come, please come. But there's someone who says that पढ़ के आया हूँ, I will give my best. It's okay, everyone panics, but I still have the opportunity to give my best. 3 hours are mine. Until 5, I will decide what to do with the paper. So I think this kind of mindset is something that you should have. Okay, so there's a question. Okay, I'll take the questions later. Yeah. Okay, don't lose your focus. Now, how does this happen? This starts happening the very moment you understand that you are just bluffing. You are just writing anything because you just have to fill the paper, and you start writing anything related to not related to the topic actually. But instead of that, instead of just writing anything, wait, take a pause and try to recollect the answers. Somewhere, something you might recollect, and then maybe you can just start. See, please understand, writing and filling the papers is not something that ICI expects you to do. They don't count the number of papers you've written, the number of sheets that you've written. They read the content also. So don't lose your focus, stay calm, and you can always recollect the answers and then start writing. Please don't write irrelevant data that is not going to fetch you marks. Okay, at times there are situations where you are totally blank and you feel कि मेरी तरह और भी लोग होंगे going through the same situation, and then it's a wonder when you see your friend writing furiously, writing like anything, and you feel कि what is happening, इसको कैसे इतना आ रहा है, we've been studying for the same number of hours, इसको कैसे आता है, something is very very fishy, something is very wrong, and then you end up doing something or the other. Instead of that, don't look here and there, focus on your paper, try to recollect the answers, concentrate on your exam, and please avoid doing such things that distract you, totally distract you. Okay, this might you might feel कि इसका पेपर से क्या लेना देना है, but this is something where you are losing your time. 3 hours, no more than that. So don't waste your time. And last, it says, don't give up. Now, while you are writing the paper, you end up at a note where you feel कि अब इससे आगे कुछ नहीं हो सकता है. You still have 1.5 hours left, and you say इसके आगे कुछ नहीं हो सकता है. But let me tell you, if you are wide open, if you are there inside that you have to write, you will definitely find answers. One, because if you go with the easy answers first, you've already collected some kind of data with you. Okay, so if you start, even start with the questions that were semi-medium or difficult ones, somewhere or the other you might find some hint. But you need to go and first believe in yourself कि हो सकता है. I've read it somewhere. Do you see the image? Do you see the frog? What is he doing? Already he is inside, but what does he do? Does he give up? No, he stops there. Just look at the image. This is simply to say that in those 3 hours, you have the right, you have the power. Don't tell that you don't know. You have to show everything in your question paper. So read back all over again. If you sometimes feel that there is nothing that I can do, read your answers, go through them, underline all of those. Maybe you can just improvise your answers. Maybe you can find 1 or 2 hints here and there, and then start writing the paper. You have to find ways that will lead you to scoring, and that will give you the correct kind of information. Okay, now after all those do's and don'ts, there are certain bonus tips also that I would like to give you for the overall examination as such. There are students who feel कि बस अभी exam आ रही है, 24 घंटे पढ़ना है, and then बस in the exam while you go, you are very very sleepy. In those 3 hours, you feel आधा घंटा तो सो ही लेते, फिर बाकी 2.5 घंटा पढ़ते. Don't do that. Please take sufficient rest and have your food on time. Then this 3 hours is something that you don't have to come and then decide. You have to plan it well in advance. You should have your thinking has to be well in advance. How are you going to divide those 3 hours? What is there for 45 minutes? What is there after half an hour? So you need to have a very appropriate timeline for everything. Please mind that this could be different for practical papers and for the theory papers. So as an experiment, do it very joyfully, do it right before the exam. Try writing question papers at your own pace at home, or just any mock test or something, to experiment. How does this 3 hours go and how do I manage it? There's nothing like revision. I think the entire secret for success is revision. So the multiple revisions that you do multiple times, it gets hit and then it becomes very permanent in your mind. So the more number of revision sessions that you do, it is going to help you. So plan your revision sessions very well in advance. At times, just before the examination, you can look up for the adjustments, pointers that you've already marked. So notes become an important point here. You can mark the adjustments. You can just, a day before the exam, you can see the important points, important questions that you said कि एक दिन पहले तो पढ़ना ही है. For theory, there could be certain answers that has excellent language. So maybe you could read those answers just before the examination. For practical, there could be few sums which you have to see because the adjustments are important. So make sure that you go through all this data also well in advance. So this is all about 1.5 day that you have to utilize, and take the necessary breaks. Don't just keep studying. Take 10 minutes break, listen to some motivational song, or read a book, or go for a walk, or do something that makes you refreshed again. Because we are under the mindset कि सिर्फ पढ़ते रहो and then we'll be done. No, it makes you more fatigued, it makes you more tired. And certain don'ts that you also have to follow. So this is undoubtedly the one, but maybe sometimes we are so eager to know कि इसका paper कैसे था that we end up discussing the paper. Don't do that, because if you understand something or the other कि यहाँ वहाँ गलती हो गई, you might end up losing all the motivation for the next paper. Also, don't waste your time. 1.5 दिन है, पढ़ लेंगे, कर लेंगे. This is my favorite subject. I've done it so many times. Don't do that, because maybe your favorite subject could be the toughest paper also. So don't waste your time, because this is the only time that you have. Exam के बाद मनाओ ना, हर दिन दिवाली मनाओ. But until you are there for the examination, give your 100%. You just end up meeting a friend before the examination saying तूने इसके MCQs किए, इसका module पढ़ा, इसके revision notes देखे, and you say, oh no, I've not done that. Give me the book, I'll do it. Please don't refer any new material just before the exam, because this is what is going to really break you down. Because पढ़ने के बाद there is a lot of content that is going to come, and then you suddenly realize कि बहुत सारा है जो मैंने पढ़ा ही नहीं है, and then this loses your entire confidence. So please do not refer any new material just before the examination. Don't follow someone else's timetable. Someone might just be a night person and he says I'm going to be stay awake till 3 a.m. and study, and you being a morning person say नहीं मैं भी पढ़ लेती हूँ आज के दिन until 3. It is going to disturb your entire schedule. So please do not follow someone else's timetable. Follow your own timetable. And don't lose confidence. You are just at the paper, paper number 1 हो गया, you've gone for the exams. First paper is majority times quite a bouncer, tough time, and students lose confidence. But the wise will not lose confidence, because they know कि ठीक है एक paper था, I still have 3 more to cover for the exam, and maybe I'll perform my even better for the remaining 3. So instead of just crying on the first, you can go ahead thinking about those 3, and this is how you can gain confidence again, come back, make that comeback, because that is what is going to take you to the end, to the degree. So don't lose confidence. You might talk to a friend, a person, anyone that you feel like, and just start back for the next paper. Okay, now I don't know which phase you are. Maybe you can just identify what self-talk are you doing. Are you saying I won't, I can't, I want to, how do I try, I can, I will, or yes, I did it. So please understand, you might feel that writing paper is a pressure, writing exams under pressure conditions is not possible for me. It is very tough for me to do it. I've been writing it for the 3rd attempt, and how do I clear it this time? Nahi hoga mujhse. You have to understand what you choose. This poem beautifully says, लहरों से डरकर नौका पार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की कभी हार नहीं होती. Don't go with a negative mindset. Don't go with a negative approach. You have all the power. You have all the understanding that is required to write that exam. All you need is a confidence and a belief in yourself that I can write it. And if you do not have that right now also, you still have time. Practice papers, practice writing, and gain that kind of confidence that is required to go to that victory stage. And you will celebrate that victory, because you understand that you've put your 100%, beyond 100%, and that is all is required. So I hope these techniques, these points might help you. And in case you all have any queries, so we'll take up the questions. Next slide, ma'am. So thank you. That was from my side. If you have anything that you wish to share, you wish to ask, these are my contact details. You can definitely get back to me, and we could discuss over the same. Okay, ma'am, can we just take up 1 or 2 questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Atharva. Is Atharva there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Uh, I request all the participants who wish to ask questions to Aishwarya ma'am to put their questions in the Q&A section in the Zoom app.
Okay, I think Sonia has already posted a question. If there is question 1A 1 and question 1A 2, can we start in the same page where first question end? Please let me know. Okay, so question 1A has two parts. So definitely you can write it where it ends. But I personally feel it is always a good practice to write a new question on a new page, simply because sometimes you write and then later you realize that even this could be a part of the answer, but then you do not write it because you do not have space. So in that case, it is always good. It also looks presentable. It also looks neat. So you can always write a new question on a new page. But in this case, of course, question one, both being the part of the same question, you can just write it one after the other.
Are there any other questions from the students' end?
Okay, I think there was one question regarding the subparts. So for the subpart, I mean, when you have, suppose you're writing question number 4, and question number 4 has 3 parts, question 4A, question 4B, and question 4C. In this case, you can shuffle the order. So you can write question 4C, question 4B, and question 4A. That is allowed. But you cannot write as question 4A, then you write question 5B, then you write question 6C, and again after question 6C, you write question 4B. So this is not allowed. So when you write a question, all the subparts must be together on a different page, but they have to be together. Okay, you cannot write it at different places. So you cannot write one question 5, then question 6, then again question 5. Okay, so that is not allowed.
Ma'am, there is a question in the chat box by Anil Srivastav. What is the maximum score so far by any student in last 2 to 3 years in any paper?
Okay, see, Anil, if I answer this question, this could be history because it's already done. But if I look, prospectively ahead, then maybe I would like to call out your name, saying that you were the one who scored the highest in a particular subject. So I hope this question brings more motivation to you so that you score the highest in whichever subject is your favorite, and the marks could be any.
Ma'am, there is a question by Tushar. Can we write question 1 in last as it takes time?
Okay, good question actually. You can definitely, but I personally recommend that question one should not be written last. In my case, I always had it on on third or fourth was my question one that I selected. Reason being that once you've written two questions which you were very confident about, you've gathered quite a lot of speed, courage, and also the momentum required. And then when you write question number one in between, you already have some tidbits gathered, by writing first and second question. So writing question at the end, question number one, I personally do not recommend because at times it might so happen that you lose out on time. And if you do not have that, sufficient time, then you miss out on question number one. And I feel question one is crucial, that being question number, the one that is compulsory. And secondly, when an examiner sees that you've not attempted question one, somewhere it gives him a feeling that this was something that was expected from a student. So if you keep it towards the end, even if you know and you do not have time, you will lose out on those marks. And I also feel it kind of creates an impression which is not so good. So I used to always keep it on rank 3 or 4.
Ma'am, there are few questions in the Q&A. Can we take them up right now?
Yeah.
Uh, a student has asked, ma'am, can we solve paper without sequence?
Without sequence in the sense.
Means we don't follow the question sequence. So question one first, two second, three third,
Yeah, you
like
can
that.
always, yes. So you can, so for example, if I'm just starting my paper and I have seen that question number 5 is the easiest for me, I can definitely write question 5 as my first question. Then I can write question 2, question 3, question 1. Yes, that sequence can be changed. but you have to make sure that the subparts are not changed. That's the only thing. Even in this case, so while you are writing question 5, now please understand this carefully, okay? So I am writing question number 5 as my first question, okay? And in that I've written question 5A is easy, question 5B is also easy for me. Now, when I write question 5A and question 5B, I need not immediately attempt question 5C if I do not know the answer. Okay, in that case, I don't have to run behind question 5C. इसको भी लिख देते, complete होगा. No, go for the questions that you know first. So you can leave a blank space for question 5C and then write other questions first. Then come back to question 5C. Okay, so this is what is meant by writing easy questions first. Acha, are we allowed to write hints on the question paper last page? No. You are not supposed to write anything on the question paper. Number one being, it is not allowed also. And secondly, see, you have to understand 3 hours is something that you cannot really share it with anyone. किसी को नहीं दे सकते. In that case, assume that something happens in the classroom, someone is found with some cheat or something or the other, and you have certain things written on your question paper. You not being a part of that also, maybe you are called upon, you need to explain. Don't fall into all of this. Wait for the answer sheet to come. Use the last page. Write all the points that you want, on the last page of the answer sheet, and then you can start.
Can I take up the next question now?
Yes, yes.
Avni Agarwal here asks, ma'am, can you please again tell?
Take this as the last question.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Let it be the last
Ma'am,
question. Yeah. Okay.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you please tell us again about the shuffling of the questions?
I suppose everyone might have understood. In case anyone has, still doubts, you might contact me. Maybe we could just take up another question so that it is beneficial for all.
Okay, ma'am.
I think we can take this up, tips to study law.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So tips to study law is, first of all, you have to be very clear about the provision. When you read the provision, be very, very clear. Understand the concept first. Don't just run behind completing the chapters. Secondly, there are case laws which are asked in, law syllabus. So in the law, while you have case laws, please understand that there is a format of writing the case law. And case laws are best to score. So when you write a case law, break it down into 4 parts. Number 1 will be provision. Number 2 is where you have to relate the case. Okay. Number 3 is number 1 is provision. Number 2 is you write the case. Number 3 is you relate the case with the provision. And number 4 is conclusion. So while you write a case law, please make sure that you write the correct and relevant provision. And while you study law, make sure that you remember the sections if at all possible, because remembering the section is definitely going to give you an edge. Now, how do you do that? You can use memory techniques for this. You can use certain, you can just look out for certain techniques to remember data. There are many techniques to do that, to relate numbers, and you can just go and Google it, how to remember certain kind of sections or numbers. Secondly, while you study law, make sure that in every chapter you write the keywords. Okay, every chapter has certain specific keywords. So make sure that if you are into a habit of writing, once you completed the entire chapter, towards the end, write all the keywords. Now what happens is, because you've written the keywords so many times, you remember them, you recollect, and then you can present it in the answer itself. So when you write the keywords in law, it gives you a good edge, it gives you a good language, it gives you a good command. Also in law, make sure that you solve exhaustive MCQs, because MCQs are concept based, and the more MCQs you practice, more you can score, plus the concepts get more and more clear. So for law, I think you also should practice writing the answers randomly. You can select any question. You can select question 6 of all the chapters and write it down, so that you understand ki, just reading the answer and presenting it is totally different. So you also need to practice it via writing. Section is not compulsory, but of course it is like the cherry on the cake. But don't write the wrong section. And that's not the cherry on the cake.
I think Madam has taken a very, very, very detailed session and very well guided by ma'am. Aishwarya Madam, your tips, your small, small things that you talked about while writing the paper really help our students. Thank you so much.
Thank
To
you.
you, Atharva.
Thank you, Aishwarya ma'am, on behalf of Pune Vikasa for conducting this session. I am sure the students loved this session, especially the activity which you took at the start of the session, and the last moment motivation that never give up. That was the turning point for students that students shouldn't give up at any moment. So I would like to thank you once again on behalf of Pune Vikasa. Thank you all the students for attending this session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I also thank ICI and thank you all the students for participating. Thank you.